Hi everyone, I'm Jerry Ford and welcome to my studio. It's Thursday night and tonight we're going to talk about freestanding lace. And this is a tea light cover for Valentine's Day. And this design is free. If you want to get a copy of this in PES format, send me an email request to waltzquilt@yahoo.com and I'll be happy to send it to you along with the written instructions. Okay, so what is this? It's a tea light cover and it's freestanding lace. I have two versions. I have one where it's two-sided, looks the same on both sides, and one that has a back and a front. And the difference is that this one's easier and quicker to do this and a little bit easier to align front to back when you're putting it together. And so this is really cute for a tea light cover for your table. Well, that shows you the light a little bit better. What you need are these little LED lights that I got these at the dollar store. This is the little 3/4 of an inch wide. They have some that are about 2 inches high. I'd probably get some of those for this project. That'll put the light a lot higher. I'd like that light to go right behind the heart. See, like this one is. I'll push it in this one. Here's what this one looks like. So like if you could push this up higher as if it were a 2-inch, then it just gives you a little more light. Okay, and this is what the one looks like with the plain back. Okay, for this project, you're going to need your 5x7 hoop. Also need to have washaway stabilizer, and you're just going to hoop the stabilizer. And when you're just hooping one layer of a stabilizer, it helps to have it reinforced on the sides with T-pins. Here's a T-pin, and what this does is it keeps the fabric from being drawn into the hoop. And you just put it between the layers here, run it on top, and you can put it all the way around. And that keeps that fabric from being drawn into the center. And that's very important with freestanding lace, because if that stabilizer draws in, you could have a problem with the outlines, them not lining up correctly. Okay, I'm going to have some organza, especially for the back and the front, and I'm going to pin in this organza. So I'm going to turn it over, lay it down, and I like to use these kinds of pins, but I'm going to take them out, so don't worry. I'm going to put it well outside the areas of stitching. Okay, and I got it crooked here. I'm going to turn this over and fix this in a minute. I'm not going to leave these on here, but I'm just going to pin them into place. Also because they're easy. Okay, then I turn it over, and I'm going to take the smallest pins that I have, and I'm going to transfer these pins to the front, making sure that everything is outside of the stitching area. Okay, so now I can remove this one pin. Not going to leave that big pin. Don't ever leave these in there before you start to stitch. You're going to end up really tearing up your machine. Not a good idea. And these are way outside the stitching line. You're going to need the organza, and what I used this crystally organza. It's just polyester. Okay, I'm going to need bobbin thread, the same color. I'm going to be using this one pink and white, so if I'm using white in the needle, I'm going to be using white in the bobbin, and I'm going to be using pink. But you could use red, you could use metallic threads, anything you like. We're going to start with the back side of the tea light cover, and I'm going to do the plain. Remember, you also have the option of doing a two-sided one, but I'm going to do just this plain one first. And I've loaded my needle with white thread, and I've also put white thread in my bobbin. So it's ready to stitch. It has 2 color stops. So it's going to stitch the grid first. So I'm going to let it stitch out this grid. And And lace is best to stitch at a slightly slower speed. You don't want to use the 1050. I'm just watching to make sure this is not going anywhere near these pins. And I think we're good. All right. I'll notice that as it's stitching the grid work, it's starting to pull that fabric towards the center, and these pins here, the T-pins, will help prevent that. It'll only go so far and these pins will stop any more movement. This is going to take a while, so I'm going to go ahead and let this stitch, and I will be back. Okay, it's finished the first color stop. That took about 13 minutes to do. So now I'm going to remove the hoop from the machine. I can take these pins out now, but you don't have to. And then I'm going to turn this over and remove the pins from the bottom. And then I'm going to take a pair of curved scissors, and I'm simply going to trim close to the stitching only along this bottom edge. I'm going to return this to the machine, and that's going to give you a reinforced satin stitch on the bottom. Now it's doing the satin stitch, so I will be back when it's done. Okay, we're done with the back. I'm going to remove this from the hoop. Now, if you like, what you can do is just take your curved scissors and trim away most of the stabilizer. Leave the organza in place. You can really see through it, so when it comes time to put this thing together, it'll be a piece of cake. You can see right through it. Okay, so now I'm going to rehoop the washaway stabilizer and the organza, and we're going to do the front side of this Tealight cover. Okay, so now I've loaded the file for the front. And so it's got several colors, but you know, I'm going to put what I want where. So this is ready to stitch out. I have prepared the hoop exactly like I did before. I have white thread in the bobbin and white thread in the needle. So I put the organza underneath just like before. Why I have the organza is so that when it does the little curly cues, it's going to have something for that thread to grab onto rather than just that rather loose grid. Otherwise, when you go to wash it, those curly cues and the scrolls are not going to be crisp and neat. So that's why the organza is here, to help give it a place to grab. And this actually has 5 color stops, but you can stop and start it as many times as you like. Change the colors to whatever you like. It's up to you. I'm going to leave it mostly white with a little bit of pink in the middle. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start it, and it does just like before. It's going to stitch that grid. I will be back when it's done stitching this grid work. Okay, it finished all 4 passes. Usually does a diagonal right, a diagonal left, and a diagonal right again, diagonal left again. And now the same thing like before. I'm going to remove the hoop from the machine, turn it over, and I'm going to trim away the organza from the bottom. If you want to, you can put the pins back into the corners a little further up just to keep that organza from folding underneath. We still want to keep the organza on the outside, top and sides for now. There. Okay. And color stop number 2 is going to seal in this bottom edge just like we did before on the back. I'll be back when it's done stitching this. Okay, we're all done with the bottom. So here's the satin stitch, and notice on this one it sticks out a little bit. That's okay. The next one is going to be a heart, and I'm going to make the heart red and the rest of it pink. So I'm going to change out the bottom bobbin with the red, and use red thread in the needle to stitch the heart. And it's only a small little heart. Now, if I didn't have the organza in the back, the edges of this heart would sort of fall along the grid work, and then when you went ahead and washed it, then the edges of this would be uneven. That's why I put the organza there. Okay, I've got pink in the needle and pink in the bobbin, so the next one I'm choosing to do pink. I've got each of the next two elements as a different color. Actually, the next few elements is different colors. You can stop, change the threads if you like. I'm just going to leave all of them except for the outside edge in pink. The outside edge, I'll change it back to white then. But I'll go ahead and stitch these scrolls and curlicues. And that will take another about 15 minutes. So I will be back when it's done stitching. Okay, here we finished all the scroll work in the middle. So before it does the heart at the bottom here, I'm going to switch back to the white in the bobbin and in the needle. And then I'm going to stitch the, I believe it's the third to the last color stop. Now it's going to stitch the scallops at the bottom. Okay, so now it has stitched this here. Okay, at this point, I am going to turn this on the back, and I am going to remove all but just a little bit of all of the organza on the front side. I'm going to remove any little jump stitches or hairs that you can see. Trim all those away. And I'm going to take my organza and about less than 1/8 of an inch away, or it doesn't have to be exactly on it, just close to it. Leave about 1/8 of an inch around the outside of the scallops and trim this all away. You don't want to go really close. When you put it together, you want it to catch some of this organza, so you don't want it really close, but about 1/8 of an inch away, and then it should attach just fine. Now, you have your back here. This is in reverse, so we want this to match up exactly on the back. So I'm going to take this, match the bottom. You can tape it if you like, or pin it. I'm going to put the pins on the back for now. Then I'll transfer them to the front. I'll probably tape this down. This is best done on a table. And you can see the edges up here, so you want to put as many pins as you can, or tape it. Now up here you can, don't worry, I'm going to move these pins. I want these to be just as exact as you possibly can get. And you can see whether you've got them matching up on the front. It just has to be close. It doesn't have to be exact, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put the pins on the front, little short pins, and they're only going to stay a little while, okay? And I'm going to do that on the table, and we're going to trim again. So I will be back when I get this. And the next to last color stitch is going to be a running stitch that's going to go all around the outline. I'm going to remove it from the hoop again. Okay, it is stitched all the way around. I am going to trim away the rest of this organza, again, about 1/8 of an inch away. Pull these pins out. You don't need them anymore. And let it stitch the last color stop, and that is now going to seal the front and the back edges together. Okay, I'm going to let this stitch off camera because it'll take a little bit. Okay, it's finished, so I'm going to go ahead and remove everything from the machine. That turned out really cute. And I am going to remove the pins, and I'm going to trim this about 1/4 of an inch around, and then just dip it in cool water for about 5–10 minutes. I will be back. Okay, it's been rinsed very quick in cold water, just enough to get the stabilizer out. It'll still feel just a tad bit tacky. Okay, and then you just take some like small sandwich bags and just stuff it so that it's sort of stretched out a little bit just to dry. You don't want it to dry and seal shut. I'm just taking some little bags. I'm just sort of shape it out a little bit. You can always press it later. And then you want to also make sure your light fits in it, because while it's wet it can stretch a little bit. And just set that down to dry thoroughly, and then when it's done, it's ready to use. If you have any of the little hairs sticking out, which I have a couple of them, I'm just going to take a pair of sharp scissors and trim them off. They're the same color as my thread, so you won't see it. That's all finished. Okay, now let's do the same thing, only this time we're going to have it completely reversible so it looks the same on the back. And this time you've got a different back file to use. So let's go ahead and set up the machine for that. Okay, we're going to start with the back again for this two-sided one, but we're going to pick a different back file. So let me go ahead and load this. Okay, this is normally your back. It's plain. This time we're going to pick the other back, and it looks very much like the front one. The difference is it doesn't have that outline right here of the satin stitch. It's going to go together the same as the other one. I have already just put my organza already on the back, and I put white in the bottom as well as the top, because the first thing it's going to do is that background. Okay, so let's go. Okay, I'm going to let it stitch on its own. I'll be back when it's finished. Okay, it finished that first color stop, and you might have noticed, yes, I did piece my washaway stabilizer. It's the most expensive of the stabilizers, so I try to use every little bit that I possibly can. So I have a few patches in there. So what I do is I put washaway thread in my sewing machine, needle and bobbin. And I like to use Superior Vanish Extra. Let's take about a 2 to 3 millimeter long stitch and stitch it together. Since it's washaway, when we're finished, even the matching thread will dissolve away. Okay, now we've got this first color stop done that did the grid work for the standalone lace. So I'm going to take this out of the hoop, and I'm going to trim that organza just like I did before along this bottom line. Take out this piece of organza, I don't need it. The rest we're going to leave until we're done. So the next thing, I'm going to leave this white in here because it's going to now do the satin stitch along the bottom edge. Okay, if I were doing the regular back, I'd be done now. The next color says pink, but I want to do this heart in the middle in red. So I changed my bobbin and my needle to red, and I'm just going to let it do the red heart. Then I'm going to stop it and change it to pink for the rest of this. Okay, I'll be back. Okay, so the heart's done. So I put pink in the bobbin and the needle. I'm going to do all of the flourishes and scrolls in the pink, and then I shall be back. Okay, now for the last color stop. This is going to, it's just going to do the last little scallop right here, and then this one is done. I'm all finished with this. I'm going to trim right here, right close to the bottom edge. Go out at least a ½ inch on either side, and I'm going to simply cut it through the organza. It's easier to do this on the back, about a ½ inch away, and set it aside. And then I'm going to go ahead and stitch the front. I'm going to stitch the front off camera, but it's exactly like we did for the last one. And then I will stop and put this backing on as soon as I get to next to the last color stop on the front. If you want to make sure that you cut all of these little threads, don't worry about them coming out. They're not going to, because for one thing, you've got some starch in here. When you go to wet it, the starch is going to seal in all of those little pieces here. If you like, you can trim away this extra stabilizer from the front if it's bothering you, because it's all going to wash away. But if it's hampering your vision, then just trim it away. So you can see through it a lot better. So I'm just trimming this about a ½ inch away, include that organza. This I've left close, this taking the stabilizer out if you like, because when you put this together, this is going to see how you can see through that a lot better. Okay, it's finished up to the same point we had it before. Okay, I'm going to take this out. On the back, before I do anything else, I'm going to trim all of the little jumps on the front. I'm also going to trim the organza all around the edge, not super tight, but about within a little less than 1/8 of an inch around all of the edges. I'm pinning it so that everything is matched up, especially here. Here I pin marked it for now. Okay, I can see through it, and it doesn't have to match up exactly because we have this organza. I'm just using ordinary masking tape just so that you can see where I'm putting the tape. Okay, put a little more here. Okay, and I think I will turn this over. And I think I'm going to pin it on the inside just so that it doesn't shift, making sure that these pin points, these pins stay completely out of the way. Now that's pretty stable once I've pinned this like that. Okay. Okay, I'm going to take this over to the machine, and I'm going to do the next to the last color stop, which is simply a run, and it's going to do a run all the way around this edge. Then I will check this again to make sure everything is catching. Now remember, you can hold this up to the light so that you can see that the front exactly matches the back, or as close to it as you possibly can. Okay, and then I'm going to run this next to the last running stitch. And what it's going to do is catch all the layers together. I'm going to turn this over. And I want to I'm going to take the tape off. And I'm making sure, even if it didn't catch inside of the embroidery, like here is the line and here is where the lace work starts, that's fine. This is why I put the organza here, so that you don't have to get it exact. You just have to make sure it's caught. And so I'm going to go all the way around. The bottom, of course, is not going to be caught. So I'm going to remove the tape. Okay, and double check that everything is caught, and it is. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to trim really close to this edge, about a 1/16 of an inch away, and trim, make sure the jump stitches are gone. I want to trim this close, and I'm going to take this off camera to trim it close. I don't want to pull it out from this stitching. I want it to be about a 1/16 of an inch right there, away from, and just get rid of this organza. Okay, right along the edges. I'm going to do that off camera. I'll be right back. Okay, here it is, nice and caught. Now, I don't know if you can see shadow through that the front side is a little bit bigger, and that's because when we release this from the back, you know, when we release the design from the stabilizer, it tends to draw in a little bit, but that's okay because it has caught some of the organza. It's going to catch more during the satin stitch, so it's going to do a satin stitch all the way around the edge. So I'm going to return this to the machine. I have white in the bobbin and white in the needle. And now it's going to catch all the way around. It's doing the last color stop. All the way around. It's doing the last one. This will seal in the edges, and see it goes on the inside, so good, we're good, it's catching. And even if it doesn't catch perfectly, it's caught the organza. That's the important part. That's the part that'll keep the Tealight cover together. So I see now there we go. See it's stitching inside, and it's all gonna be good. Okay, I'm gonna let this finish stitching and then I'll be back. Okay, it has finished stitching, so now we're going to remove this from the machine. Take these pins out. Let's just check the back to see how well we caught everything. Oh, very nice. It's great. I'm going to cut it out instead of tearing it out. This is washaway. Let's just rough cut it for now. I'm just going to check. See, it is caught all the way around. Even if up here, see how you think it hasn't caught? But because it caught that organza, see, it's together. And yeah, now, did I line this up perfectly? No, I actually put this a little bit too low. So I have this these sticking out, so you know what? It's mostly together. So once I rinse this out, I'm going to put a little bit of fray check right here, let it dry, and then just cut it off. It's going to be fine. Test to make sure your light fits inside, and it does. There. Fits in just right. See if that's sticking out and it's not going right, just put some fray block on it and cut it off. It's okay. It does not have to be perfect. And so this is all done. So now what I'm going to do is just rinse out the stabilizer, let it dry, fill it with the bags like I did before, let it dry, and see now this is two-sided. That looks really good. Here, I haven't taken the bags out of this one, but this is the one-sided. This one takes less time because you got more stitching to do on both sides, but I think it turned out wonderful. Okay, here it is already dried. I took the bags out. If you have any little bits hanging out, then you want to trim those away. I did change the design a little bit so that this would be moved a little bit shorter. However, if yours doesn't come out absolutely perfect, it's okay. What I did was I put some fray check right here and here, and I'm just going to cut them off. Okay, and then you're going to put your little Tealight inside. There we go. There, and now it's all finished, and this is the same on both sides. And then here it is when they look the same from the front, and the backs are different. So you have 3 files with this project, and you'll use 2 of the 3, one of the 2 backs. So I hope you like this project. If you would like a copy of the PES file and the instructions on how to make this, then send an email request to me at waltzquilt@yahoo.com, and I'll be happy to send them to you. So I hope you like this project. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share. And until next time, I'll see you. Bye.